So, Victor, we've heard about layers, adding layers, how digital needs to be used as tools to enable healthcare professionals and to enable health systems to work better. So how do we ensure that tools that we're trying to introduce actually reduce clinical burden and errors rather than just adding another layer on? And do you have any examples where that's been really beneficial?
Yeah, so thanks a lot. Thanks for the invite. Maybe just 2 words about Humanitas, because out of the Italian context, we're not so known. Humanitas is one of the largest healthcare providers in Italy. So we have many hospitals, ambulatory centers, a university, medical university, research center, the AI center, and so forth. I lead all the innovation in terms of tech, digital, and AI in the hospital. At the moment, we have ongoing potentially close to 102 AI implementation projects in the group. So it's a really substantial amount and substantially funded institute. Over the years, we started implementing projects 2019, 2020, are our first AI projects. So we've done our fair share of mistakes and in the clinic, and I would say it all really has to start from an essential need clinically, or well, it can be the physician, it can be the patient. So if you start from anywhere else, you're bound to just implement something that has no sense. So this is the primarily focus of the activity that we do, is taking a lot of time to understand what we want to implement, where, if it makes any sense to actually do it now ourselves, to wait 6 months and buy something, or to not do it at all, because you can do potentially more damage by just trying to solve a problem that might not need solving. So very concretely, today we have projects in the cancer center, which is precision medicine. So actually deciding treatment plans for patients based on immunotherapy, chemotherapy, certain types of pathways, and potentially anywhere from 2 to 7% of these patients get moved to other treatments with superior outcomes. Another area of, so the whole area, let's say, of digital twin has been a huge amount of investment and time and effort and energy. I'm not going to speak about radiology and diagnostics, because this is now bread and butter of everyone's activity. But if we move into anywhere into research or clinical research, so things that are not common practice, but only in subsets of group, all the areas today of voice AI, but not in terms of ambient and so forth, everything else that is call center, patient support, customer service, and again, administrative tasks. So all this is activity that we have been doing in the past years, and is where you see the largest margins of improvement and less resistance in a sense.
And Roman, I was going to come to you next, because you are precisely working in one of those sort of frontier areas. And how do you make sure that the kinds of technology, so the smart lenses that you're working on, are not just viewed as sort of gadgets and sort of the latest innovation, but are actually meeting that critical need that Victor spoke of? And how do you demonstrate measurable health impacts?
Well, first of all, thank you for being here. My name is Roman Axelrod. I happen to be a founder of a deep tech company called XPANCEO. We develop contact lenses with digital functions, including medical functions, apart from many of those we're not going to discuss today. And today we're here with a mere answer to your question. I invite you all to see the prototype of a smart contact lens able to measure intraocular pressure with medical grade precision after this session at the lunchroom. I'm going to be there together with my colleagues, and we're going to be more than happy to show you actual decision already working and way more cost effective than all those traditional ways to measure IOP, which appears to be a cornerstone when treating glaucoma. Thinking more broadly, I think we can all agree that today it is absolutely clear, both for big techs, startups, well, bigger startups like us, that AI is the next generation of computing humanity is going to use, at least within coming 10, 20 years. But remember this great presentation by Steve Jobs, presentation of the iPhone. That was a perfect marriage of function, use case, and form factor. We believe that future form factor of the next generation, we believe in AI-powered XR computing. So AI algorithms that you see around you, you operate them by eyes, by voice, by gesture, probably a bit later, like 10 years later, by mind, but well, we'll see. And those gadgets, those form factors will be able to measure instantly your biological parameters, to feed them into the algorithms, and to provide your, or probably you and your physician with up-to-date information, and not the kind of information Apple Watch provides you, but with an actual insight. Like, Roman, this guy irritates you, do not talk to him. Or, Roman, 5 cups of coffee is enough for today. I mean, an actual insight.
Yeah.
It's for end user. And for regulators, for state, for hospitals, it is, we believe in, cloud of devices. I'm a power user of Whoop. I lost 25 kilos using this little devil. And personally, sure, I'm a nerd, but I would like this to be integrated inside my skin. I do not want to wear a wristband. It irritates me. We believe that in 10, 20 years or so, we will come to a bunch of cloud of devices, contact lenses, neural implants, probably wristbands, whatever, all kinds of sensors that will seamlessly integrate all those infos from your body, and will feed it to the algorithms. For state and for hospitals, it is a way easier to predict any kind of disease on an earlier stage, way more cost effective than, well, treating it after it was detected and not before. Actually, well, it's easy to say. Our prototype is 20% cheaper than, well, gold standard of measuring IOP, and reusable. See the difference? Huge impact on well, budget-wise.
Yeah, I think it's great the way you're looking at what your technology is delivering today, but also looking to the future. And it doesn't sound too dystopian, which is quite a refreshing change. And Claire, I wanted to come to you next. And I hope this isn't too unfair giving you a two-part question here, but I wanted to understand from you, from a policy standpoint, how do you, as we've already heard, how do you identify those sort of population needs, and then identify and prioritize the technologies that help to address those needs? Mm-hmm. And I'm thinking both in terms of today, but also then how do you look to the future to sort of horizon scan and see what's coming up where you might want to funnel investment or things like that? So a two-part question, which I hope isn't too unfair.
Yeah, no problem. And just to clarify, I joined Department for Business and Trade just a couple of weeks ago, actually. But before that, I worked in the health sector, and still in the health sector, actually, but specifically for health organisations. So NHS, MHRA, UKHSA, there are lots, and with governments and other organisations overseas in the health sector. And so the first part of your question is, it's a mix, actually. So I'm a technologist rather than a healthcare specialist, but obviously working closely with stakeholders and specialists in that area, be it scientists, medics, and so on. So all through, I guess, the life cycle of a patient, but also a medical product as well. So so that's from the health perspective, but then also as a technologist, that constant horizon scanning as well. So attending and participating in events such as this or elsewhere in the tech industry, but as well as in the health industry. And so a lot of it is around the trends that we can see emerging and then acting upon those and prioritising them, but working really closely with stakeholders as well. So in the AI space, for example, the majority seemed to wake up or discover AI, I think, when ChatGPT became mainstream. And so all of a sudden there were lots of summits and papers and sessions and fora and so on around, the art of the possible, but also the concerns, be it ethics, security, privacy, etc. And so based on those, policies develop, but also then policy is to a degree theoretical. We have to deploy that and so on. But the best way really to understand what policies need to be developed and how they need to evolve is working with the tech and working with the stakeholders. And so I can just think of a couple now working in the clinical trial space, again with scientists and medics who were quite sceptical actually, and worried, quite rightly. Half of them have taken the Hippocratic Oath, and it's around public health and patient safety. So I don't want to call them risk averse, but really thinking carefully about the risks, more so than perhaps other sectors. And so we worked really, really closely with them, took some of their ideas, what they'd heard from academia and their world and so on, tried them out, and but with the right guardrails in a risk proportionate way. And from there, we can develop policies and so on. And just with the second part of your question, I think my world at the moment, as well as AI and other things, it's taken up a lot by thinking about quantum. So when we're thinking about horizon scanning, when I last looked at it, quantum in probably 2 years ago, it didn't look like it would be mainstream until about 10 years, in 10 years' time. But just now this year, when I've taken another look at it and looked at what Big Pharma, for example, are doing in that space, starting to train teams up. And I can think of one who has trained teams in quantum over the last 4 years or so to help them use quantum with drug discovery and different kinds of cancer detection and treatment. So not to replace AI, but to complement it, the very different technologies. And so there you can see that emerging, and thinking about upskilling, which has been one of the themes here. What we're trying to do there is, instead of it taking us by surprise, almost like AI did for the masses, start to get our people, whether it's technologists, healthcare specialists and so on, in the art of the possible with quantum and other emerging technologies. So it is all around collaboration, be it quite closely on particular projects and tangible things, but also participating a lot in days such as this as well.
Fantastic. I'm going to come to Victor with a question next, but I'm just prepping you all that I will be coming to you afterwards. So do think about if you've got any questions and flag that. So Victor, I was going to come to you next for your perspective on that sort of horizon scanning and looking next. How do you sort of try to identify what could be the next ChatGPT, let's put it that way, but also, like Claire's saying, you know, where things sort of come along and actually the pace of adoption and the pace of progress sort of can take us by surprise. So how do you approach that sort of horizon scanning and trying to identify what's coming next?
I've decided not to because I'm going to be wrong most of the time. So I don't intend predicting any of it. That's what I told the board. That's what I told the CEO.
That's what you tell your bosses. Okay, that's
I said, yeah, till now we were lucky and we got it spot on, but doesn't mean that's going to be the way forward. Because of one substantial difference, and this is my personal feeling. Unlike other technologies that you saw the boom and then there was a deflation and then there was what at least we're observing here is that the evolution of this technology is much faster than the adoption. So therefore, you have constant new peaks of interest or of application of this technology, regardless of healthcare. Okay, our timelines of getting them to clinic or getting them approved or doing a CE marking or a medical device marking here, maybe in the UK it's simpler, but in Europe it's not. Is much longer. So therefore, since they're not overlapping, you will, at least what we're seeing is a lot of the things that were not solvable or we thought that we were going to be solving in a year or two are suddenly solutions that we find ready. So you really have right now simply a human aspect that I don't think anybody can grasp how this technology is really going to be impacting so many places. And it's not your blockchain or your VR or your whatever other trend that we had the last all these decades. So therefore, since you do not have that, you need to observe every single trend. I mean, look what happened with all the ambience and all the companies that funded hundreds of millions of dollars or euros. And then you have an Epic or you have other providers providing the same service directly into the clinical records. So suddenly the disruptions are happening in 2 months, in 6 months' time. And realistically, I don't think any human can predict this. So what we're deciding and what we've said is, look, our objective and our mission has always been clinical outcomes. So where our DRGs are linked to this, our reimbursements, we're a private group. So it's not, you don't get funded just for existing, okay? And since that is there, really the filter is, does this improve, does this, move the scale for clinical outcomes and clinical quality in any way, shape, or form possible? And if at least the answer is a probable yes, then we go look into it and we see, is it AI that can solve it? Is it something else that can solve it? Most of the times you don't need AI. There was a speaker before that said, you just need to fix the process. So I would not predict anything. I don't intend to, and I think this is why, in a very humble way, we are able to provide solutions to a lot of the, scenarios that we see day to day. Another reason is that, many times we do look to other groups and what they're doing, because sometimes all this positive competition is actually a very positive thing for the patient. And being in a market that is open, you end up seeing solutions that maybe you didn't think of. And we're seeing a lot of these things really coming clinic outwards, whereas before it was market inwards. Anything you need to implement, now it's, from the clinic outwards. Doesn't mean you can scale it, doesn't mean you can implement it in 5 or 6 or 10 of your hospitals or to other groups. It just means that some groups, some physicians, some manager has found a solution to something that maybe before was not seen. So I would say much less visualization, much more observing, much more understanding, and really humble approach on what you think AI is going to do, because it will do, but very, I don't want to say prudent, but very careful in the clinical outcomes, patient safety, and of course, patient safety can also be implementing AI. That doesn't mean patient safety is not, could be implement AI because of reduced error rates and so forth.
Can I just quickly add to that, please? I was just thinking, one of the best ways that I've learned is by not sticking to a sector. So although I've worked a lot in health sector, some of the patterns around technology, so using AI, for example, med tech, so wearable devices, or maybe that won't be wearable in the future, Axel, can we apply to different contexts? So MOJ, for example, Ministry of Justice, I should say, there are use cases there. or even some of the work that we did in clinical trials or teaching machines to help, not ultimately make decisions around the safety and efficacy of a medical product. A lot of the work involved in that is around workflows and decision making. So you can see how that can be applied in many other different contexts other than health. And likewise, I can remember attending an Economist event a couple of years ago, actually, and nothing to do with healthcare, just straight up tech, if I put it that way. And I learned a lot and carried some of those ideas over into health. And the only other quick thing I would say is just finding that sweet spot between experimenting and what we're not supposed to do is bring a tech and then try to find a problem or opportunity to use it. Normally it's driven by user and business needs, and that is true. But I do think it's not necessarily 50-50, but sometimes to bring a tech and experiment with the right stakeholders and subject matter experts to help identify the art of the possible, and sometimes failures as long as it's done in a risk proportionate way. You find the best innovations. The Post-it note was invented by accident, by a failure, and there's lots of other examples. So yeah, it's trying to find a balance amongst all of those things.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's where that sort of humble approach comes in, really, but also that learning from different sectors and making sure that we're not getting sort of tunnel vision. But I did say I'd come to the audience. So do we have any questions? Could we go to the back? Because both of you have already asked questions. So I'm going to let somebody else ask the question first.
Thank you.
Please say your name and then ask a question.
Hi there, my name is Axelrod. I'm a clinical director at St. George's Hospital here in London, and really enjoyed your presentations. I wanted to get your thoughts about to what extent you see legacy in its broadest terms stopping the promise of these technological solutions, be it political, be it doctors who don't like change, patients who don't like change, and systems that can be very difficult. And in a previous panel elsewhere, they spoke about how we spend so much time dealing with, we use the word they used, and we can't get forward. But it would be good to get your thoughts about how we deal with that, so you can actually get the promise of these technological solutions.
Roman, do you want to take this one? Because I guess you're dealing with this in multiple different arenas.
Remember the movie Matrix 1? It was released in 1991. The operator of a ship Neo operates from. He has his working station, and all the screens around him are touch screens. 1991. Smartphones have been with us since early 90s. In 1999, there was all kinds of tech needed to create a smartphone with a flat screen. We're out there. We just needed a proper use case and, this critical wave of users. I know, I really do know what you're talking about. I sympathize. My father-in-law is a surgeon, so I know they don't like change. Doctors don't like change. Patients are reluctant to change as well. And being a patient, sometimes I keep asking, how long have you been doing this? Is this method safe, etc., etc. But once we see, remember COVID vaccines? We needed it, and once we really do need something, and there's a proper solution. I think there's no other way but to force professional community to use it. And then, in case professional community sees real outcome, and provided that patients are safe and budgets are, safe as well, sometimes it works, sometimes it don't. Remember, at least 10 companies tried to create flat screen smartphone before Apple. Why it was Apple? I think no one has answer to this question. And those gadgets were considered as geeky toys. But then something happened. And that was a perfect, coincidence of use case, form factor, and real outcome. I really do believe that same goes with medtech.
I think actually that's something really interesting in terms of what the others have said about sort of building the use cases. So we need to build the use case
Absolutely.
before to get adoption, but then during and after adoption, we need to be reinforcing it.
There's no way. Failure is a natural part of building new technology,
Yeah.
and there are some areas medicine where failure might be critical. We have to be very careful, and that is why state and overall responsible community has to regulate it. But there's no other way but to try to fail, to learn, and to try to do it once again.
The guy who invented electricity failed 1,000 times.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's a great point there. We had two people down at the front. I only have a minute and a half. Okay. I'll come to you. Okay. We have 1 minute left, so keep the questions short, and then we can get the most out of our panelists.
Thank you very much. Fascinating. Thank you. My question is to Roman specifically on the question of your technology, which fascinates me. How would we deal in the future, looking far ahead maybe, with the issues of privacy, data sovereignty, and cybersecurity if we are wearing devices in our delicate human bodies?
Same as we do today. This is probably the second most popular question after how do you provide power. So basically, imagine a gadget that provides you with picture, with biological sensing, and with some other functions. Well, let's not stick to them. Here we're talking about a very, very specific and very important data about your health. We do already send it from our smartwatches, wristbands, our physicians' offices, etc., etc., etc. We, as a company, in order to comply with the US, UK, and other local regulation, we have developed our own algorithm to encrypt the data. I, being both a founder and a user, I do not see any other option but to create we call it cryptolens, and not because of cryptocurrency, because of encrypted data transmission. We did not have any other option but to create our own encrypted solution. And this has to be taken very seriously, because imagine what bad guys can do with all this information.
Thank you so much. And that's the conclusion of our panel. So thank you very much, Claire, Victor, and Roman. And we've now got refreshments in the hall across the way, and we'll be back here at 4:10. So thanks very much, everyone, and thanks to our panel.